Dennis A. Tito is the founder and chairman of the Inspiration Mars Foundation. Tito is also Chief Executive Officer of Wilshire Associates Incorporated, a leading provider of investment management, consulting, and technology services. Tito earned a BS in Astronautics and Aeronautics from NYU College of Engineering and an MS from Rensselaer in Engineering Science. He began his career as an aerospace engineer with NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory at the age of 23. While serving at JPL, he was responsible for designing the trajectories for the Mariner spacecraft mission to Mars and Venus. Although he did leave to pursue a career in investment management, he did remain interested in and committed to the exploration of space. On April 28, 2001, he proved that. Tito served as a crew member of an 8-day Russian Soyuz taxi mission to the International Space Station, fulfilling his 40-year dream to orbit the Earth. We're excited to have Mr. Dennis Tito with us this evening to talk about future human Mars exploration. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. Tito to the stage.
I have to get the passcode right. Well, thank you, Steve, for a great introduction. And I'd like to thank you all very much. It's a real pleasure to be here with so many friends and acquaintances at the Wernher von Braun Memorial Dinner. When the theme of this conference is bringing exploration forward, you can always count me in. And this evening, as you might have guessed, I am here to talk about exploration of Mars, human exploration of Mars. About the time Dr. von Braun was here in Huntsville, I was just out of school and working at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena. I was a trajectory engineer, and the task at hand was to help design the first flyby trajectory for the Mariner 4 mission. As it turned out, my career had a trajectory of its own that soon carried me into other pursuits. But from that day to this, my thoughts have never wandered far from the general vicinity of the red planet. That is how, about 2 years ago, I came across an article by 3 rocket scientists named Patel, Lunguski, and Sims. They discovered a rare planetary alignment that every 15 years creates an opportunity for a relatively fast round trip to Mars. What makes the opportunity more interesting is that it uses a free return trajectory that doesn't require any critical propulsive maneuvers after leaving the vicinity of Earth. Their work was published back in the 90s and hadn't gotten much notice. But when I read that study, it struck me as a pretty big idea, an idea that needed to get out of the academic journals and become part of NASA's human exploration plans. I thought to myself at the time, and I have been asking ever since, why let a moment like that pass on the calendar? If such an opportunity is coming our way, a chance for a relatively short, free return flight to Mars and back, then why not seize it? In the short version, this is our primary focus at the Inspiration Mars Foundation. We are submitting for consideration of the American people, the President, Congress, and NASA, a new mission. We propose to send a spacecraft bearing 2 astronauts, a man and a woman, to the far side of Mars and return them to Earth. It will be a voyage of more than 314 million miles in 501 days, in collaboration with NASA, in the name of America and for the good of humanity. The first manned mission beyond the moon would begin in early January 2018 and end in the spring of 2019. The objective is to place the crew within 100 miles of Mars. In August of 2019, the 226th day of flight, the astronauts would enter the gravitational sphere of another world. That would be a momentous achievement in human experience, and it would prepare us for a second landing, or a landing one day on the second most habitable planet in our solar system. As everyone here knows, other nations would like to beat us to it. If America is ever going to do a human flyby of Mars, I believe that this could be our last chance to be first. A fast free return trajectory is possible only rarely, and the chance won't come again until 2033. The Inspiration Mars spacecraft has to be on its way to Mars in the first days of 2018 if this mission is to happen at all. And if it does not happen, where does that leave human space exploration by the United States? In recent years, the most notable movements of American spacecraft have been powered by trucks and barges in the direction of museums. It's as if all we can afford to aspire to is a careful preservation of past glories. For my part, I do not believe that for one moment. To make progress on every front, NASA needs to make more history. A Mars flyby in this decade is the way to do it. The strengths of NASA are never more impressive and inspiring than when they are directed toward a great American objective in space. What's needed is a grand and worthy goal, enlisting all in a common effort, marked in bold on every calendar, and winning back the world's attention. A Mars flyby mission is the kind of hard, daring, and high-yield quest for which NASA was made. Inspiration Mars Foundation is already working in partnership with NASA to put the mission together and provide as much of the funding as we can. We realize that we need support from Congress and the President, and we put it to them this way. This mission makes sense, and we can get it done within a launch schedule already set, using rockets and systems already in testing. More than that, this mission will be meeting an objective that's already been declared. As matters stand, a mission to circle Mars is planned for sometime in the 2030s. The first step in that direction is a flyby mission, and we propose to do that in the here and now. The rationale is simple. Get this done now, drawing on the pressure and creative drive that a target date always inspires, and we can move the American space program to a whole new level. Will it require some new money in NASA's budget? Sure it will, but not that much. And whatever the amount comes to, here's how it should be weighed. The public and private expense of shipping off America's shuttle fleet to museums can be counted in the hundreds of millions of dollars. Moving just the Endeavor from a hangar in Florida to a pedestal in Southern California cost in the range of $40 million. So, for the sake of the same kind of money that we have collectively spent to retire our old spacecraft, we can mark a dramatic new beginning. Instead of dealing in museum pieces, we can go to Mars and back and get America back in the business of human space exploration. Very soon, we at Inspiration Mars will submit a report to Congress, to the President, and to all concerned, laying out every specific from liftoff to splashdown. Any reader will be able to see that the plan and architecture are technically sound. In many ways, all the mission would really do is gather up the hard-gained knowledge and technical skill of 2 generations of space science and channel all of it for great purposes. So many of the necessary technologies are ready, or almost ready, for that breakthrough moment. With the world watching and a celestial deadline hanging over us, we'll all have the focus, discipline, motivation that we need to see this through get done. Think, too, of the watching world on that day in 2019 when 2 of our own have just splashed down in the South Pacific. 2 who have already seen Earthrise from our planetary neighbor. It would be one of those moments that everybody sees and no one ever forgets, especially young Americans. Perhaps more than anyone else, this mission will speak to them about their country's potential and also their own. In the years after Apollo, twice as many high school students pursued the sciences than before. Twice as many earned science and engineering degrees in college and graduate school. We can hardly calculate all of the good that followed from that single national objective, declared, pursued, and reached. Well, ladies and gentlemen, all of this can happen again. A whole new wave of scientific talent. No lesson plan, no aggregate goal in education can call forth talent and enthusiasm in the life of a child like the sight of thrilling enterprises that they want to understand and be part of. How do we encourage more boys and girls to study the science? Show them what science can do. How do we multiply the ranks of engineers, physicists, mathematicians, and doctors in less than a generation? Show American children that these disciplines are capable of doing great things, and doing great things for peaceful and worthy ends. Of course, missions of this kind are not undertaken with a view to sheer drama. Still, it is worth imagining how the flyby might unfold. Those 60 hours in the proximity of Mars that justify the 501 days of travel. How might it feel to the explorers? What would it be like for us here on Earth, watching a man and woman floating by the surface of Mars? We've all heard it said that in space science, there is no finer instrument than a person with eyes to see, present to tell in words what telescopes, pictures, and robots cannot convey. Looking out through the window of their capsule, this woman and man will see another world, and across that void, that little light in the darkness with a touch of blue. All of humanity can see them in the moment, hearing the voices of two people upon the face of the deep, transmitted back to the universal language of awe. When Apollo 8 made its initial pass by the moon on the night of December 24th, 1968, it was the most widely seen event ever on television. A year of violence and sorrow ended with the shared experience of a lunar sunrise and 3 astronauts reading the opening verses of Genesis chapter 1. Such moments do not fade quickly from memory, and maybe such greater distance from Mars to Earth will give new power to the lesson. How small so many human strifes and hatreds can seem, how ungrateful the desire to destroy when we see from afar from this refuge we all share. All of this can come about within the next 6 years, a little less than the time between a ringing presidential vow of a moon landing and the event itself in the summer of 1969. By chance, the completion of a Mars mission would occur just before the 50th anniversary of Apollo 11. And if America takes on this challenge and all of the opportunities that come with it, then we can greet the Apollo anniversary with more than nostalgia. Commemorations are for giving past attainments their due, but they're also moments of accounting, and sometimes they can carry a hint of rebuke. We will have to ask in July of 2019 how we have used the time. Where have we journeyed since? What followed in what President Kennedy called the greatest adventure on which mankind has ever embarked? One of 2 answers will be open to us. One can reply that in this half-century, human spaceflight never went further than where the Eagle had landed, that we had plans and ideas to make longer missions, but we never did, and we never tried. Or, just weeks before the anniversary of America's arrival at Tranquility Base, we will be able to say that 2 of our countrymen have just traveled a distance of Mars and back, and that they were first. For all of these reasons, and for its own sake, the Mars endeavor is worth doing. And I leave you tonight with a pledge to give the effort all that is in us, with unreserved faith in the men and women of NASA, with a single-minded commitment to surmounting every obstacle, and with complete confidence that this mission can be done. Thank you very much.